Hello, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to our SJND information session. My name is Gabby Lippy. I am a graduate of the SJND class of 2008, a proud graduate, and I am serving as Director of Admission. I am joined today by the other members of our enrollment team. Mrs. Eileen Grabiel, our Director of Enrollment Management and an alumni parent, and Mr. Sean Obligation, graduate of the SJND class of 2015 and serving as our admission associate. And you'll be able to meet both of them later on in the hour. So this 4-part informational series allows you as prospective families to connect with key members of our school community. And today our focus is on science, technology, engineering, and math at SJND. And you will be able to hear from and interact with 3 of our awesome SJND faculty and staff members, as well as current students. So we're excited to have you with us. And I would first like to introduce the principal of St. Joseph Notre Dame High School, Ms. Julie Guevara.
Hi, thank you, Ms. Lippy, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for taking time to learn a little bit more about the SJND STEM program. We want to start this evening with a short prayer, and Wednesdays are a great opportunity for the principal to lead the school in prayer. So while today is quite a warm day, feels like summer, the prayer today really helps us reflect on autumn and the changing of the seasons. So let us begin. O God of creation, you have blessed us with the changing of the seasons. As we welcome the autumn months, may the earlier setting of the sun remind us to take time to rest. May the brilliant colors of the leaves remind us of the wonder of your creation. May the steam of our breath in the cool air remind us that it is you who give the breath of life. May the harvest from the fields remind us of the abundance we have been given and the bounty we have to give to others. May the dying of summer spirit remind us of your great promise that death is temporary and life is eternal. We praise you for your goodness forever and ever. Amen. Thank you again for joining us. And I do want to acknowledge that, particularly for the 8th grade families with us tonight, that it's probably not the 8th grade year that you would have expected to start out, but I want to commend you for your efforts in the beginning of your high school search and engaging with the process. You know, we'll experience a lot of emotions over the next several months, but please know that we're here to walk with you and to provide you with as much information, resources, and different perspectives as possible. Before we officially begin tonight's program, I want to give a shout out to our current pilot families, especially the students here tonight who have been so resilient and adaptable during these times. And I want to thank our teachers and staff who day in and day out tirelessly work on providing the best possible learning experience that they can create literally on a daily basis, really to connect with our students in the most innovative ways. They're so inspiring, and hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about them in tonight's program. I'd like to, at this time, welcome our ambassadors, and starting with Yaseen, to invite each of them to share a little bit about themselves and introduce themselves. So Yaseen, please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Yaseen Alkhameri. I'm in 11th grade. The school I attended before SJND was St. Leo the Great. And in the STEM program, I am connected with AP Computer Science. I take the course with Mr. Kale, and the engineering pathway.
Hello, everybody. My name is Adrian Aguilar. I am a senior. Before coming to SJND, I attended St. Elizabeth in Oakland. And at SJND, I am involved with the biomedical program and computer science.
Hello, my name is Lisa Ramos. Before SJND, I went to St. Leander and San Leandro, and I'm currently involved in the biomedical science program.
Hi, I'm Alex Rayo. I'm a senior. The school I previously attended was St. Leander School, and I'm also a part of the biomedical program.
Hi, I'm Rachel Bartley, and I'm also a senior and attended St. Joseph Elementary School prior to SJND, and I'm also part of the biomedical program.
Awesome. Thank you, students, and thank you, Principal Guevara. We're thrilled to have you here with us, and I know families will be very interested in hearing from you students especially, so thank you for being here. We are thrilled also, as Ms. Guevara mentioned, to have 3 SJND faculty members with us. Mr. Andy McKee, representing technology and engineering, Mr. Mustafa Siddiqee, representing mathematics, and Ms. Yoon, representing science. They will be introducing themselves and just kind of speaking about their experiences as teachers and about their departments. And following their introductions, we will conduct a live Q&A and ask that you type any questions for the faculty and for the students into the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And we will make sure that we answer those questions live. So to start us off, I would like to introduce Mr. Andy McKee.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SJND Zoom meeting. And I'm not a teacher right now. Just to say, this is my 19th year at St. Joe's. Began in 2002, and I came here as an art teacher, and I taught in the art department for 15 years. Currently I'm in my 4th year as the Director of Integration and Technology. I'm also the father of a 2019 graduate. So I'm here for the long run, and I know St. Joe's from many different directions and positions. There are a number of things that I do as the Director of Integration and Technology. I'm managing the school's network. I'm managing our software subscriptions and all the students' accounts. And I'm also supporting teachers with their use of 21st century schools and teaching practices. One of the other things I do as well is I'm also a club moderator. And one of the things that the kids didn't mention is all of the other things that they do. For instance, Lisa Ramos is one of our main editors for Prisms, our arts and literary magazine. And Yaseen's a very active member in the STEAM Club, which is another club that I co-moderate. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the STEAM Club. Actually, I'll talk a lot about the STEAM Club. And I'll also talk to you a little bit about what we're doing right now with all of the technology that has become so essential for our day-to-day life at St. Joe's. The STEAM Club, and actually, you know, it's kind of funny that here I am, primarily I'm an artist and we're talking about STEM, but really I'm the A that's missing in that. I'm the STEAM member of this, but I think what we bring to that is just creativity, exploration, and a desire to figure out how things work. And I think that's something that we see in all of the STEM and also in the arts. And that's why I think it's a really great marriage of minds and actions. So the STEAM program started a long time ago, and we just last year, though, we received a grant of $60,000 to buy equipment in something that's called what we call the Idea Lab. And it's a makerspace that includes incredible equipment. We have state-of-the-art laser cutter. We have 3D printers. We have a CNC milling machine, as well as die-cut printers, which we can use to create things like stickers or t-shirts. We have dye sublimation for other artistic things. So basic, and also robotics and virtual reality equipment. So we have a lot of incredible equipment to sort of meet the needs of all of our interests of our students. This overlaps with a new exciting program that we started last year that Yaseen mentioned, which is the Engineering Pathway Program. So not unlike our biomedical program, which has been around for 9 years. Do I have that right? Number of years we've had the biomedical program in place. The engineering pathway is a new way to give our students an opportunity to graduate with honors that will distinguish them as having engineering as a component, key component of their interest and study in high school. And the program has, it's one of the main things that students need to do to be a part of the program, especially when they come in as freshmen and sophomores, is be active participants in our STEAM society. And the STEAM society focuses on individual creativity and self-directed learning through individual projects that students can use to learn our equipment. And then also group projects where students work together with a variety of different talents, whether that be mathematics, coding, designing for 3D space, and then fabrication, and even artistry to develop decals or logos or designs that would go along with those products. So it's a really exciting program. Unfortunately, last year, our inaugural year, we hoped to have a mini maker fair and invite the community, and that didn't come out the way we wanted it to. But this year, we're definitely going to put together a virtual program if we can't do something in person, where we can demonstrate the incredible work that these students are doing as they pursue their interests. We're even now still trying to use the lab. I'm actually in the library right now where we have the Idea Lab behind me here with all of our equipment. And we can actually take files from students, they can send them in, and we can 3D print or laser cut or manufacture things for students, and they can pick those up. So we're just getting those meetings underway, and I've already got my first order. In terms of our technology, we are really hit the ground running. I think we were in an incredible spot when COVID hit. We already had a robust learning management system and training for teachers so that perhaps they had to use it more than they ever had before, but it wasn't like we were buying things new and giving training off the top. Also, we're a Google for Education school, and teachers are super familiar with and have been using Google for years. We also were quick adopters with Zoom, and now everyone is a member of our Zoom organization, which prevents Zoom bombing. We have incredible talented use of Zoom with our teachers, with breakout rooms and helping to keep students engaged, as well as a variety of other engaging products like Quizlets and Kahoots to help keep students engaged with their classes. And we're always looking for new. We have a new product actually that we're purchasing to go along with Zoom to make Zoom more like a classroom experience. So we're always looking for new ways to keep students engaged. And I'm not sure if anybody had a chance to see the humanities presentation, but something Mr. Rosso said was how so many of the things that we're learning about teaching, we probably want to continue in the new, as we move forward into a regular classroom setting, because we are learning a lot of ways that we can reach our students to help make them more self-directed and self-motivated and have more ownership of their learning. So I probably have gone over my time, but I'd be happy to take any additional questions.
Hello, my name is Mr. Siddiqee, and I'm a math teacher here at SJND. A little bit about me. I actually went to school for biomedical engineering, but I decided when I graduated that I did not want to go into engineering because I really liked working with people, specifically young people, and I just had a natural inclination to teaching. So I ended up becoming a teacher instead. That being said, I still very much value my engineering background and am able to use that to connect with students in math and relate sort of that engineering side and show how a lot of these math concepts would play out in an engineering field. So I've been teaching now for 6 years, and I actually have taught almost every math class from Algebra 1 all the way to BC Calculus over those last 6 years. And I've even taught physics and chemistry for a couple of years as well. This year, specifically, I'm teaching Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus, AP Calculus AB, and AP Calculus BC. I joined SJND actually rather recently in February, which was only a few weeks before we all went to shelter in place. So I actually didn't get a full tour of the school until I had to come in over summer for our COVID-19 campus training, and that's when I got the full tour of the school. So I'm somewhat new to SJND as well. But one thing that I can say with absolute confidence is that in my time in the 8 or so months that I've been at SJND, the amount of support and the amount of community that I've felt from the administration, from the counselors, from the other teachers, from the parents, from the students is just superb, really from every direction. That's the type of feeling that we cultivated or at SJND. And specifically how that relates to math, I would say that, math is a subject in which people have very unique relationships with math. There are people who can feel very confident in all their subjects, but then math is just, they just hate math. They just had a bad experience and they're just done with math now. And it can be the exact opposite as well. There are students who might not enjoy any other subject, but then in math class, all of a sudden things just turn on, things just make sense to them, and they just really love math. So because of that, math is a very unique subject in terms of engaging students. And I think at the SJND math department, one of the things that we try and do is engage every type of math student. We want to engage and challenge those students who come in, who had those bad experiences, who don't feel confident in math. And at the same time, we also want to engage the students who need to be challenged, who want to get ahead, who want to excel and really advance in math. And I think the SJND math department focuses on meeting all students at their needs and challenging every student where they are. One of the things about the SJND math department is that we have so many different math levels where students can be placed in. And also it's very easy for students to go between different levels. So if a student comes in, maybe not feeling as strong in math, and then over the course of the year, their confidence builds up and they feel a lot stronger now, they can move to the more advanced track and work there. So that idea of meeting every student where they are and really connecting with every student on an individual level is one of the strengths of the school as a whole, but I would also say of the SJND math department.
Thank you, Mr. Siddiqee. Thank you, Mr. McKee. I guess I'm the last to go. So I'm here as Ms. Yoon representing the science department tonight with you and the families and with my fellow students that I've had the pleasure of having in class. So kind of just topping up, again, I am the representative, not the department head for the science department. It's my second year at SJND, although it is my 5th year in teaching. Kind of like the stories we've heard from our faculty members, I originally was not aimed to go into teaching. I actually was on the chemistry track as well to pursue perhaps a professional school or the research track. So I do have some experience in my undergrad with undergraduate research and how to run a laboratory. So just a little bit about myself, where I'm coming from. I'm actually not a Bay Area native, nor a California West Coast native. I'm actually from a state called Oklahoma. I know it's like we have to actually look on the map. The only way that Oklahoma gets on the map is from our governor, or we're related to Texas. So with that said, I love college football. Fall is the season for that. So I've been keeping up with the Sooners. So that's been a great pastime when I'm not teaching. So just a little bit more about my educational background. I've been involved in Catholic education to kind of highlight my commitment to Catholic education, maybe not as many years as some of our faculty, but I have been through Catholic education K-12, went through college and graduate school, and so went to the University of Portland to get my graduate degree in teaching, as well as participate in the PACE program, which is a partnership kind of similar to Notre Dame program called the ACE program. So that's how I got involved in teaching, kind of took a leap of faith, wanted to explore outside my Midwest town and come here to the West beautiful coast. So very happy to be here and very grateful. So with that being said, I am Jesuit educated, so meaning that even though our charism here at SJND is not centered around the Jesuit charism, I am very familiar with, or perhaps US families are familiar with, the common saying of AMDG, which is Ad Maiorem Dei Gloriam, for the greater glory of God. So I really take that into my approach into teaching of how can I be as a woman for and with others. And so I try to instill that within my students along with being good citizens after they leave my classroom, after they leave SJND perhaps and into the world, as we see a lot of our alumni come back and make a difference to their own school community. So I personally aim to do that in some form of way and want my students to become the best scientists that they can be, whether it's as a person, whether they even pursue science. I want them to, obviously. There's so many great ways. We integrate so much of the technology, so much of math. It's truly interdisciplinary. So going into what I actually do at SJND, I coach cross country and track and field. So I'm with Tony Fong all year. So if you know Tony Fong, he is a wonderful coach and it's truly an asset here at the SJND community. I'm also the sophomore class moderator this year. That's a new role for me, but I primarily teach. So this is probably a good thing with freshman parents, incoming freshman parents. I teach the on-level biology and honors chemistry classes. So I do see, probably will see a lot of your students next year with great love and care, of course. So again, kind of highlighting what my roles here at SJND. I do collaborate a lot with, our department collaborates a lot with all the other departments, especially with the Idea Lab, which I would just want to take note and add some details on what that looks like from the teaching perspective and what the students perhaps are also seeing. Last year as well, we had the great opportunity to have and host the HEDCO grant officer that was one of those people that gave that we applied to as a grant to receive funding to prop up more of our Idea Lab scenarios for our students. So one of those being the project that we did in our biology classes to highlight was making organelles using a platform called Tinkercad, which is a baby version of AutoCAD, if you're familiar with that program. So it introduces a little bit of that 3D programming aspect, and we were able to 3D print with the help of Mr. McKee and the Idea Lab with making things like organelles actually felt and seen, and what students can actually see and learn through with that process. So that was a very nice thing with the ladies that did it with me, and we were very impressive to our grant officer. So that seemed to go well. We unfortunately, like what many of others said, very hard with COVID to continue that work, but we've been making do here in the science department. So to lastly highlight as well, to give credit to my coworkers and colleagues that are not here with me, we have a lot of great faculty in our science department. Mr. Fong is my counterpart in chemistry, along with Mr. Ponce. They do a wonderful job teaching chemistry to our sophomores, making it very interactive. Perhaps you see Mr. Fong's Instagram. He started that over COVID and shelter in place. So he live streams sometimes. He has his whole setup to kind of adapt to what is going on in our current situation. So the entire department, I will say with full confidence, is very adapted to the technology, wants to learn, hears back feedback from our families, from our students especially, and from other colleagues, and working together to help us ultimately serve the families and students to their best success possible here at SJND. I guess to add, to close out, the one thing I also want to highlight what we have done as a science department this year, we have kept the biomedical sciences program growing. And with that, we have sent home with all of our classes, at least my classes I can speak for, we have sent home kits this year to help continue the hands-on learning at home, and perhaps bridge that gap between school and home, and providing supplies with the funding that we have to families that perhaps don't have that access. So just want to highlight that we as a school, as a department, have prioritized that, and students across all grade levels have been given some access to continuing that laboratory setting. And as like I was saying, I find that very important, especially at this time. And given the background that I have, finding laboratory, especially during this time, is key, I think, to continuing that inquiry-based, driven, independent learning. And we are aiming as a department to support and continue that process. So thank you. We obviously open to any of the questions here.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Principal Guevara, Mr. McKee, Mr. Siddiqee, and Ms. Yoon. We are very blessed with you in our community. Both as Ms. Lippy mentioned, I'm an alumni parent. My 2 children graduated from St. Joe's. I was not working here when we selected the high school, so I know the journey that you're all on in gathering the right amount of data and what you need for your own child and finding the right fit for your child. Our goal tonight is to make sure that we provide you with as much information as we possibly can. So what I'm gonna ask is I'm gonna go in and talk with our students here for a minute, but just a reminder that please, in the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen, please feel free to enter any questions. We will filter through them and make sure that they get answered. What I thought we would do before I start the question is to ask the students, both engineering pathway or computer science and biomed students, if you could pop on and say just what the experience has been for you this far. And we'll start with Rachel.
So I'm in the biomed program, like I said, but that doesn't stop me from taking a lot of math classes too. So this year I am taking 4 out of my 7 classes are STEM classes, having me taking AP Stats, AP Calculus BC, AP Chem, and Biomedical Innovations. And the past years, I've also taken a lot of different science and math classes at the school, and it's definitely helped me pursue what I want to do in the future, which is science and math also. And it's giving me the foundation I want, and teachers are always there helping me and like making me challenge myself to do better, and helping me where I struggle too, so I can improve upon that. And I think I'm coming out as a really strong student in both math and science. And I have both at my fingertips as to whether I want to study math or science in college.
Thank you. How about Mr. Rayo?
Yeah, I would have to say I have had a similar experience as Rachel. I would say overall, I've really had such a great experience with the Biomed program, and it's really helped me solidify my desire to study STEM in college and beyond college. And part of that is because of the great support and teaching that I've received from my teachers. Not only are they so passionate about science and STEM, and that kind of really comes across in the classroom, they also are there really to support me and to help me grow into this role as like a so-called scientist. And I think my experiences in the biomedical pathway also have let me take courses outside of not just biomedical like related courses, but also, again, as Rachel said, I'm also in AP Stats this year and AP Calculus BC. So getting that other sort of foundational aspect of STEM in mathematics really helped me sort of have experience overall in STEM, and really made me fall in love with that and decide to continue it in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Aguilar, could you talk to us about being part of Biomed and balancing the workload that comes with that program?
Yeah, so being part of Biomed is SJND classifies himself as a college preparatory school, and with that, there's a lot of rigor, but the teachers and the education you get absolutely makes it manageable. You push yourself, but at the same time, you know this is what to expect in college for a higher education. So it really comes into play for biomedical studies. You have those projects to complete, but you get the foundation laid out in how to complete the process. So managing the workload becomes really easy, paying attention to the teachers, following your work, and learning how each aspect of biomedical comes into play while completing your projects is really inspiring, and something I expected to learn in college, not really in high school, but it was great to witness it in SJND.
Thank you. Mr. Alkhameri, can you tell us about, did you know anything about computer science before you started down that path, and how has the adjustment been if you didn't?
I barely knew any coding at the time. When I was starting with Intro to Computer Science, we really learned Python, I knew very little Python, and Mr. Kale made it really easy for us to adjust and follow along with his lessons. He'd give us a worksheet, and if we ever had any problems, let's say our code wasn't working, or we just didn't know how to execute it, he would come over and he would explain it really easily. I don't know how to, he would,
It made sense.
Yeah.
It's good.
And it was really easy to adjust from not knowing any code at all to learning 2 languages, Python and Java, because both of them, once you learn like the basics of coding, you can learn 2 different languages as long as you know the syntax between the 2. So Mr. Kale made it really obvious how to distinguish between the 2, and yeah.
Learn it. Got it. Thank you.
Could I just ask if Yaseen could talk a little bit about the console that you made, where you were working with Luke last year to make that game console?
Oh yeah, I was working with JetLao, yeah. So JetLao and I, using the skills that I learned with Java and Python with Mr. Kale, last year, we both collaborated on a project. It was a little game console, you know, like the Game Boy. It was like that, but it was only with Jet. It was really cheap to make. I used a Tinkercad, or not Tinkercad, my bad. I used a Arduino, and Jet and I followed these instructions and did a little bit of coding, and we put these little games. It was a little portable game console. It was really nice.
That's awesome. Thank you. Lisa, can you tell us about your first freshman class with the biomedical science, principles of biomedical science?
Yeah, so actually before going into biomed, I actually considered myself to be more of a humanities person, and I did take biomed as a way to maybe like challenge myself and see if maybe I want to go in that kind of field. So when I took principle of biomedical science, I was faced with it was actually very fun and interactive. So what you do in that class a lot is you go over several career paths that a biomedical field would be, such as like a toxicologist, different types of doctors, and being like an EMT, and even being like a forensic detective as well. And I had a lot of fun learning these different kind of career paths. We went over different like body systems as well, and we even like dissected a sheep's heart actually. So one of my favorite part of PBS, which honestly I would say would be my favorite class to this day, was that it was very interactive and project based. So a lot of it is you definitely learn on the way, and it feels as if almost you're actually in the career itself, like you're actually like being pretending to be a doctor or things like that.
Very cool. It's a very cool program. I wish I would have taken it in high school. I'm going to direct this next question to Mr. McKee. Can you tell us what are some of the STEAM projects the students have produced?
Sure. So along with things like game consoles, one of the things that really got our club started was a pinball machine. And I actually was the one who came up with the idea, kind of thinking it would be a good combination of arts, engineering, and electrical design. We just bought parts. Fortunately, we found somebody who actually knew how to do some of this work because nobody does it anymore. And it's exciting. So we designed pinball machines and took that to the Maker Faire for 4 years until the official Maker Faire went under. But since then, we sort of reprogrammed. We have so many people in the club right now. We're getting a lot of smaller projects. We have kids who've worked on designing drones, remote controlled watercraft. We've got designs for, right now we have a student who's looking to design to do stop action animation. We have students who are well, they built our 3D printer. We had a 3D printer that came disassembled. They had to learn how to put it together, do all the wiring. We have 3D cameras, 360-degree cameras, and students are working to build a map of our whole school using the 3D cameras and stitching that together. We have another idea that actually it was kind of based on Yaseen's idea, is to actually make a large, like a 1980s video game console that kids from the coding class, because they create games with Mr. Calais, but make it so that those kids can actually upload their games into the console, and then we'll have that available in the lunchroom so that kids can go and play the video games that the students have produced in the other classes. Now, one of the capstones for the whole engineering program, for our engineering pathway, is a class that Mr. Calais teaches called Research, Design, and Build, which is actually going to be sort of a class that marries all of this together. This participation in STEAM as a freshman and sophomore is really supposed to sort of train you to be able to participate in that class. And again, that inaugural year of that course was second semester last year, and it sort of got a little bit derailed, but that's also another place where students are really learning how to develop a design based on a problem, do some research on that, prototype it, and use that equipment. So not only are we doing this in the club, where kids can kind of do whatever they want to, come together with cross-curricular ideas, but it's also a part of our curriculum itself, and students can do that in a class.
Awesome, thank you very much. I would like to ask Miss Yoon, can you share with us, how do you use hands-on and project-based work to help students learn?
That's a good question. How do I use that in the classroom? Well, especially with distance learning, I think that's more important than ever to help with the engagement, and also in a way involve families, right? To have them at home with your student. As a clear example, I think just making it interactive, even if it's just a little thing. The first thing we did this year for on-level bio, we did an evolution lab that looked at beaks, like kind of simulating the famous Charles Darwin observations of the Galapagos Islands with the hundreds of different kinds of finches that he was observing on that trip. So what the students ended up doing, it's kind of, and it's trial and error, right? Like some of them completely missed the instructions of, okay, we should probably figure out, you don't have to use the same thing I'm going to be using, just whatever you got. So some of them were just like, I could hear clanging in the background of like, they were just trying to find something in the kitchen because they didn't realize we had a lab. But, we had like the parents helping out and kind of really like, okay, we should use this, this, and this. And they just kind of looked while their students were doing it live with me. So I think there's that family component that's super important to education, especially with this distance learning. So what we ended up doing to the hands-on part was they had to pick up as many Cheerios as they could in 30 seconds to determine, and then they had to count, and I had to count like 280 Cheerios because one of the utensils actually picked up a lot. And so it kind of was interesting, even something little like that, just a way to engage students with that hands-on and connecting it back. Okay, like what data are we seeing? What are we seeing as a class? And I think along with that hands-on learning, that sense of community as well, even if it's virtual, having the students talk about what they saw, interact using technology aspects like Jamboard or Google Whiteboard that we are able to use, and just able to see each other, just as they're doing the lab or as they're like thinking or brainstorming, just seeing other people's faces, I think has really made a tremendous impact, along with keeping up with, hey, let's just do something physical instead of like standing in front of a screen or like always on our screens or on our notebooks. So just adding that component, I think, has many benefits that hopefully we'll see as we enter the second semester as well.
Thank you. Just an information piece for families, the biomedical science program is partnered with SJND and a company, Project Lead the Way, And it is a 4-year program. And when the student finishes that program, it's about a 6.5-year volume of science. And I can speak to it personally as a parent. My daughter went through it and she did not study science in college, but what she learned and why she did it and what she fell in love with is the amount of critical thinking, project-based learning, teamwork that you do to build programs has led her into her study in college and the disciplines around how to do all that together. So hands-on was an absolute important part for her, and it's a really wonderful program that way. I'm gonna go switch to Mr. Siddiqee. As a teacher, what about our students has made you most proud during distance learning?
Sure. So I think the thing that's made me most proud is how flexible and adaptive the students have been. Really, this whole distance learning is one giant teaching experiment. I don't think any of us were ever properly trained, or if there's really any research that it was really done on something to this extent of distance learning. So as teachers, as a school, we've gone through several phases just in how we teach the classes and how we use different technology tools and all those different things. And every time as a teacher and as a school, we've introduced or I've introduced something new, the students are, no complaints. They pick it up and they just run with it. They try and do the best that they can. And it really makes it feel like, again, we're a community, that the students, the parents, the teachers, the administration, everyone's on the same side of just trying to provide the best education. And we're all working together and we're all in this together. So I would say that adaptability and that flexibility is something, it's a great characteristic to have as an individual, and they've really shown that in Stars and Stripes during distance learning.
Thank you very much. I agree. It's been a great learning curve for everyone. So we have a question. Are there any after-school STEM clubs? And if yes, are teachers involved with the clubs? Mr. McKee, do you want to speak to that? I think you're on mute, Mr. McKee.
I am. I clicked it, but it didn't pop. So STEAM is obviously a club that kids can participate in, and we meet, even though we're virtual, we meet twice a month. And then also, because there's a lot of teamwork with that, we have individual projects, but we try to team kids up who are doing similar projects. Like if somebody's trying to learn 3D printing, you're going to, pretty much do your own little project, but you might have colleagues, other friends who are doing the same thing, and you can work together, as well as those group projects. So that's definitely a way that kids can participate after school. But we also have the Aerospace Club, and that's run by Mr. Fong. Ms. Yoon was talking about Mr. Fong, who is our incredible chemistry teacher who loves to blow things up, loves rockets, and you may have, I don't know if any of the participants have done any of our summer discovery, but he does this incredible summer discovery program where they just explore the Bay Area. And so kids who are really excited about flight participate in that club. And like I say, they usually do field trips, and there's some crossover there too between STEAM kids and Aerospace Club. I think I'm saying that one wrong, but something like that. And we definitely have some medical clubs as well. The names are escaping me right now, but we have one for people who are interested in becoming doctors, and we also have Red Cross Club, which students usually they help to run our blood drives, and so they actually they get to talk with the nurses who are drawing blood, and so we have many different things. And clubs are one of the cool things at school that are really student driven. So if you've got if your child is really interested in a specific, like math club, right? you know, kids who just want to solve hard math problems, right? I mean, Mr. Siddiqee is your moderator. You go hit him up and say, hey, will you help us and help us like solve crazy math problems? And there you go. You got a club. So I think that's one of the really fun things about St. Joe's. Like I was mentioning earlier, you know, you're seeing one facet of these kids, but these kids get an opportunity to do so many cool things at our school. They get to be the scientist, they get to be the athlete, they get to be the artist, the performer. What's crazy is that some kid will come up with a club that does all of those things. So like I say, we have actually, I think we have a list of all of our clubs. I'm sure that Ms. Lippy can share that with you, and you can see where those are, but definitely we've got that.
Thank you very much, Mr. McKee. I'm going to change over here to students, and I'd like each student to tell us what is your relationship like with your teachers. And Mr. McKee was a great segue into activities beyond just your academic focus. So what clubs and activities are you involved in? We can start with Adrian.
Yeah, so my relationship with my teachers is amazing. I've never feared walking into class like after hours and asking a question. I always know I'll be welcome with open arms, no matter which department it is, math, science, English. I have that really close relationship with my teachers, and it helps, especially when like also maybe even forming a club, having that close relationship with the teachers. You're like, I'm thinking about starting up this club. There's no problem hesitating with that. And as a senior, I had a really hard time choosing which teacher I wanted for my recommendations, not because I wasn't sure if I had any, but because I had too many. So definitely those close recommendations is something I enjoy at SJND. And for clubs and activities, I'm involved in quite a few, but the ones I'm most involved in would probably be Latinos Unidos, which is a Latinx affinity club, which I'm vice president in, and Red Cross, which I'm an officer in. And in past years, as we mentioned, we helped volunteer at blood drives, facilitating the incoming students and or telling them where to go, or if they needed to walk back to class after donating blood.
Adrian, can you share any advice you would give to a middle schooler?
I'd say advice, just put yourself out there. Any interest you have, anything you want to explore at SJND, we'll probably have it, ranging from all sorts of categories. You can sign up for as many clubs as you want. So if you have 20 interests in your heart, go for those 20 interests. If you have 2, try those 2. And if you want more, any club will always be accepting of you. So just go as much as you want, and never be afraid to put it all out there.
Great. Rachel?
So I am a part of our school student government. I serve as ASB president, and I am also part of the Filipino American Student Organization, which I'm co-president of with Alex, and work under Mr. Obligacion. And I also have participated in our school spring musical for the past 2 years, which has also been a fun experience, and am a part of other clubs where I'm just officers in. And my relationship with my teachers are also pretty good. Like Adrian said, I'm really open with all of them. I also struggled trying to choose which teachers I should ask for my letters of recommendation, because I honestly felt comfortable asking each and every one of them. Even teachers that have left SJND, I still keep in contact with, and I'm still open with them and can talk about any teacher about all my different classes. Even if I'm talking to a teacher from English about math, they're still open and ready to talk to me, or and go to a math teacher and talk about other stuff. I can drop in for flex hours and ask questions, and no one like turns me away or anything. And they make time for each student and can talk to you individually and get to know each person pretty good.
I'm going to switch to a question that came in, and I'll point this to Alex Rayo. What kind of help with getting into colleges do students have, and do you feel supported?
Yeah, I would definitely say My experiences so far, I've been really supported in the process. Just because going back to as early as freshman year, sophomore year, we have college counselors that really start making you think about college and making you start preparing your materials and really thinking about the process and getting introduced to it early on. And especially senior year, that really ramps up as you're actually in the process. And our college counselor, Miss Yee, is always open for questions, whether that be through email or GChat, and she hosts office hours nearly every week where you can just go on the Zoom and she'll help you. And we've just had so many resources. We've had sort of dedicated sessions for seniors where Miss Yee, again, our college counselor, walks us through things like the financial aid process, things like the personal statement and all of that logistical stuff. And also we've had other sessions where our counselors go into breakout rooms with us and really help us like pinpoint or answers any specific questions that we have about our applications and introduce us to like the CSU app, the Common App, all these different things. So our college counselors really go in depth with the whole process, and they want to make sure, and they're really open for any like questions that you may have, and they want to make sure that you're really prepared and that you don't go into this process blind or feeling like you're not supported.
Great, thank you. Yaseen, could you tell us about your relationship with teachers and what else you're involved in school?
Yeah, so I feel that my relationship with teachers is very strong. Even from freshman year, I still talk to some of the teachers that I had that I don't have anymore. And whenever I have a problem in a class, I can always go to the teacher knowing that they'll come out with a solution. I can talk to them whenever I want, even if it's not relating to the class. Like I remember one time I had to talk to Mr. Kale because I asked him to help me set up a server on my computer for something else, and he helped me. It was really good. And for what was it? The
What you're involved
activities?
in?
Yeah,
Mhm.
what I'm involved in. Yeah, okay. So for what I'm involved in, for what I would think of first is Steam Club, definitely, because I'm a proud treasurer of Steam Club, and I attend all the meetings. And with Steam Club, there's a real community with Steam Club because everybody in Steam Club is connected with one of the, whether it's the machines or how Mr. McKee said, there are groups for people that are doing the same projects or similar projects. So you can always go to somebody else if you're having a problem with one of your things, or if they're having a problem with something, a machine, they can come to you. It's all really effective and efficient.
That's awesome. Can you, any advice for students coming into high school?
I would say that you shouldn't be afraid to ask your teachers about anything, whether it's solving a problem. Like they'll be open to solve and teach it to you again if you forgot, or maybe you just weren't feeling good that day. They'll be there and they'll be there to help. Yeah. So
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate all the input from all the teachers and all the students and the parent questions, student questions. We really appreciate them. And we're going to end the Q&A portion, and I'm going to move this over to Ms. Lippy. And if you do have any other questions that come up, you are welcome to reach out to us in admission at any time.
And I just want to address one question that stuck into the chat, which was how many students are in the engineering and biomedical programs versus those who are not, which is a great question. And the engineering pathway, as Mr. McKee mentioned, is in its second year. So we'll kind of see how that continues to evolve. But for a freshman student, all you have to do to indicate interest is to join the STEAM Club. So it's a great first step, and it's open to any student who kind of wants to join. And then as the years increase, there are certain class requirements that students have. So taking 4 years, which all of our students do, of math and science, taking a certain number of AP courses, taking the Intro to Computer Science course, and that's kind of capstone course as well. So in our second year, there's not too many students in it yet, but I imagine that will continue to grow because it's very popular and engaging. And for biomedical sciences, students kind of initially are invited to participate on that program with the placement in honors biology. And that placement is done based on a student scoring near the 75th percentile on the high school placement test. And there is some flexibility around that if students are passionate about it. And I would say usually there's either one section or two. So anywhere between 30 and 40 typically each class. And there are students who, like our seniors here, continue all 4 years. And there are some too that participate for a couple of years and then maybe kind of step out of the program if they want to spend more of their elective time in different areas. But yeah, just wanted to make sure we address that too. Awesome. So Mr. Obligacion is going to talk to us about some upcoming admission events and opportunities, and then we'll go into our application timeline.
Yes, as Ms. Lippy said, we would love to engage you all in sort of our upcoming events and some things that we have coming up. On the 25th of October, we have SJND's open house, which is something that, of course, we're used to hosting on campus, but of course, we have to transition that into a virtual time. So we really want to make sure that we are engaging every family where they are and are trying to make everything super accessible for you, no matter what kind of area you are in. So we have that on the 25th. Following that, on the 28th, we are also having our Spanish speaking information night, and that we are really trying to use to be more accessible to families and students who primarily speak Spanish as their first language. And so we would love to make sure that all of our information and all of our communications are being heard and accessible throughout all different types of families. Following that, we also have a virtual visit on October 29th, and our virtual visits are a chance for students to get an experience with SJND. They get to connect with a current faculty member, current students as well, and really get to experience kind of what SJND life is like currently. And we also have our Live with Admission series, which will restart again on November 9th and will recur every Monday at 10 a.m. And that is a super fun and engaging event to casually kind of come on and watch on a Monday, get to chat with myself and Ms. Lippy and Ms. Grabiel. And we have special guests all the time. We have had Principal Guevara on, and we love having other teachers there to engage with them as well.
Great, and just a bit about our application timeline. So our application is live on our website currently. Our early bird deadline for reduced application fee is December 4th, and our final deadline, January 7th. And once a family creates an application, you'll have access to a parent portal and a checklist of items that will kind of walk you through the process. We will be taking the high school placement test online on January 9th, and that registration is now open. So families can sign up for that testing. And then finally in March is when notification happens. So Mrs. Grabiel, Mr. Obligacion, and myself are here throughout the admissions process to meet with families individually. We're happy to set up Zoom meetings with you and your student just to connect. And of course, at our events that are upcoming. So we thank you all for joining us, both live and those who will be watching our recorded session. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them our way, and we will make sure to answer them for you. Thank you again to Principal Guevara, to our students, and to our faculty staff members. And we have one final question here, if there are any waivers available for the application. So we generally do not do application waivers, but if there is a specific need, you can definitely feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to speak with you. But as I mentioned, that early bird deadline, if families apply by December 4th, it is a reduced application fee of $75. And our final application fee of January 7th is $115. And then once families register, there is opportunity. Once families apply, there is opportunity to apply for tuition assistance as well. That would impact tuition in the following school year. So we will have some information sessions dedicated to that as well. So thank you all again for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.